Start with sort of that period in the 1960s of, from the Watts Rebellion. Even before that, you have, the Smith Act trials with most of the leadership of the Communist Party being in prison or on trial.
What year was that? The Smith trials?
That was 54 to 56.
Yes.
If I
And then
remember
there was repression in the late 40s, like 47 too.
The McCarthy era.
Yeah, that whole McCarthy era. LA just popped off in a way post 1965. You have all these different groups that form. The whole new left, new communist movement forms out. Predominantly it seems California and LA in a lot of ways. Obviously the Brown Berets, which you co-founded, formed in that era too. You have the whole Chicano student movement that formed. What was the temperature like in LA? Like what caused all of these things to develop almost at the same time?
Yeah, no, I mean, the mid to late 60s, there was so much going on. Obviously, we had the war in Vietnam. That influenced a lot of folks, the poverty drafting Chicanos and blacks, right? But then you also had the rise of the black liberation movement, some call it civil rights, right? You had the Watts Rebellion of 65. And I worked as a janitor at a elementary school in East LA before, because I was going to Garfield, and so I got a summer job, and all the janitors were black. And I was just fascinated with the arguing in the basement during lunchtime. One guy was, hell yeah, I'm gonna go down and burn, get my TV in it, and I was like listening, and then the other guy was saying, oh no, we can't do that. We gotta be peaceful, we're gonna look bad. And I was just like gobbling it all in. Because I grew up in Ciudad Juarez, right? So I learned to speak, write, and speak Spanish, right? And then we moved to South LA, the Florence area, Florence Compton. And so it was black and Chicano. There was one white lady on our block, Mrs. Hebner. So most of the whites had moved to Huntington Park and all that. So I grew up with blacks. I went to Miramonte Elementary School, and it was half black, half Chicano. Then I went to Edison. Edison just came out in the news yesterday. It was so funny that there was a young man with a gun, so there was tons of police there, yeah. So people are posting that, oh, police. So then I look at it, Edison Middle School, and I go, I went there. I got swatted. I was, what did I say? I got swatted, and some guy pulled a knife on me. It was a nice school, so for Edison, most people know I'm from the. So anyway, so my upbringing, I grew up with blacks. We were coming from Mexico, and then there were blacks from the South, fleeing the Jim Crow. So then we moved to Ball Heights in East LA. So then for me, watching the black movement rise influenced me, watching the rebellions, the Black Power movement, but I was still kind of quiet, at high school. But I got mad that they called me into the vice principal's office to sign up for the U.S. Elective Service System, but I wasn't vocal yet. Right, and then I went to work at a factory where my dad was. He was a union man, he's shop steward. I would go to union meetings as a little kid. So I always got that, pro-union, right, And then as a little boy, we would always go to Mexico to a small little village to visit my grandfather. And he was a teenager in the Mexican Revolution. So he would tell me stories, and he had a leg, wooden leg that he got shot. He showed me his gun, his sombrero, and he was a real tough guy, And, so you remember all that stuff, and my mom would always say, don't forget you're Mexican and learn Spanish. But, I got brainwashed, in middle school, high school, all the vanilla U.S. history kind of thing. The U.S. is a great country, manifest destiny. So then when I went to go work downtown, I go, fuck, I told my best friend, man, this is fucking hot. Sawdust all over, like can't breathe, and I said, let's go to East LA College, just out of nowhere, because I almost dropped out of high school. In high school, we had racist teachers, overcrowded conditions, high dropout, push you into the military, industrial arts, which, it's okay having a blue-collar union job, but they were pushing us into low-paying jobs. The woman into home economics, right? And then a strong ROTC pushing us into the military, and then, maybe I'm taking too long on this thing, but I mean, it's all related. You could edit it. That we were being bombarded on radio, AM radio, by the pro-military stuff. There was a movie and a song, "Fighting Man of the Green Berets." They played that song every 20 minutes, and there was a movie with John Wayne.
Yeah.
Right? So we were all like, so, I get out of high school, my best friend, man, let's go join the Green Berets. Like, we fed into that media bullshit, which is all the young people are now today. So they had a big recruiting center off of Whittier Boulevard in Atlantic. So we go down there, we walk in, hey, we want to join the Green Berets. Like, fuck, man. I used to be embarrassed to bring that up, but hey, fuck it, I'm old now, So the guy looked at us, Chicano guy, here's the brochure, read it and come back. We gobbled it up. The 18, the Green Beret, the 18 demolition value. Anyway, luckily for us, we never went back. Man, because I don't know what could have happened. I would have had a totally different life. But that's where we got the job in my dad, downtown Mission furniture assembly line. And then it was so hot, I told my friend, let's go to ELAC. So I enrolled at ELAC, so did he, but he dropped out right away. So I started getting involved in student government. And then I saw a sign for a group called MASA. So I went to a meeting, it was older Chicanos who were there on the GI Bill. And I started arguing because they were doing tutoring, scholarships, and I told them I was a little younger, and I said, we gotta be like the blacks, man, you know what they're doing. And they turn around and they go, why don't you go do it? And it just kind of thought, click, oh, fuck, you're right. So it was kind of one of those things that happen in your mind. You're right. So I formed a group called La Vida Nueva, with more activists. We fought for ethnic study. We fought to come out against the war. We had our own newspaper, La Vida Nueva, Campus News, And then we fought for ethnic study. We had a student strike with the BSU, But the thing that really radicalized me, I don't know where I got the book of Chicano history, was North from Mexico. It's the original Chicano studies book. Carrie McWilliams, progressive, New Deal. He may have been CP or friend to CP. There were a lot of people that were not open CPs, but they were,
Friends of the party.
Yeah, friends or, I like Bert, and I also met Bert Corona, and he was in MAPA. So I invited him I didn't totally give up on Massa. I invited him to talk to Massa about the war in Vietnam. I wanted him to take a position, and they voted it down by a couple of votes. Fuck you guys. I go La Vida Nueva then. It was all young, all mujeres, all women, a couple of guys. And then eventually 2 guys that were airborne, 82nd Airborne Vietnam joined us. They showed us how to do. So your original question, so then I kind of jumped around too much.
Oh, you're good.
So for us, and then Carlos Santana hit the music, we got so we were getting new music. We saw the Black Liberation Movement on the news. We saw the war in Vietnam, And then I grew up in East LA getting harassed by the sheriffs. And then at Garfield, like I said, racist teacher making fun of my accent. And so let me regroup back to your original question. So what was going on back then? Okay, so remember, I got another job. Went to ELAC job career, and they had a thing for a teen post director. And it was good. Hey, fine, I'm going to go apply. Lincoln Heights, the Church of the Epiphany was the appointment. And they had a panel of interview me with Tony Rios, some guy from the EYOA program, and Father John Luce. Do you know that name?
Yeah. I've heard the name. I wrote it.
Yeah. And so, man, fuck it. Put a little suit on, some young guy from, I don't know what, 66, 67. I wasn't more than 19, 20 years old. Anyway, I went for it. I got the fucking job because even the assistant director applied. And I think that what did it is that they asked me, now that I look back at it, Tony Rios asked me, if you were in the neighborhood, the community, you saw a group of young men hanging out, what would you do? To me, it makes sense, well, I'll go over there and talk to them. What's going on? What do you want to do? And basic organizing. You got to go to the people.
Yeah.
The mass line. You guys believe in the mass line?
Yeah.
Okay. That's my one now, Anyway, I got the fucking job. So I'm there on North Broadway with all these rowdy teenagers. It was street kids that had dropped out or whatever. I'm a T-Post director. What do you guys want to do? I started doing a little trip, go to the beach, go to ELAC for some concert. So then one day, Father John Luz and Eleazar Risco, who was the founder and editor of La Raza newspaper, walk in with a stack. They walk in there, boom, throw them on the floor. Here, pass these out. The kid, well, I got to read it first. I don't know what this is, the light proper, right? So I open it up, start reading it. Fuck, man, this is great shit. Critical of the government, of the war, police abuse. Hey, this is fucking great. It kind of started politicizing it. And I told all the kids, let's pass these out, man. Let's go all over Broadway and Lincoln Heights. And then somehow I got a hold of that book. Carrie McWilliams, which documented the Puerto Rico, Texas massacre of Mexican, the land takeover, Mexican-American War, the Sleepy Lagoon case, all this stuff. And I go, fuck, everything I learned in high school was bullshit, right? So I got real angry and started getting involved. So then at the church, Father John Luz opened it up to the community to have meetings. And there was a group called Young Chicanos for Community Action. David Sanchez, Ralph, and so I joined them. And then he got a grant from the World Council of Churches to open up a coffee house. So we opened up a coffee house in East LA on Goodrich and Olympic. And it was a retired CHP guy that owned the building, and he rented it to us. So it's called La Piranha Coffee House. So we started hanging out there. The young Chicanos, so I like to say we were ahead of the hipsters, and we had a coffee house before. So then so then one day, David Sanchez walked in with a stack of brown berets. He threw them on the floor, and he go, put these on, oh, fuck, what is it? All right, fuck it, let's put them on, So little by little, we would organize the car clubs and the cruisers, because I grew up cruising, so I knew. So we'll go there, know your rights. They can't stop you, can't harass you. We had a rally in Winter Boulevard, and the sheriff came, busted David on a misdemeanor. And so we met with the car club and tell them about the movement. But the sheriff had brainwashed them, saying we were communists, Which we're not communists, we're just, And then we did a protest at the East LA Sheriff Station, the first one in the winter of '67. Because there was a young man that said he was hung. That he hung himself, committed suicide. But the newspaper said the autopsy that he was beaten. He had bruises all over his body. So we did a protest. And we created a scandal in East LA, because back then they didn't believe in police brutality did not exist. It was no, there's no such thing. Literally.
Yeah.
Like, how old are you, man?
30.
Yeah, so, and how old are you?
24.
And you believe it, back then, there's no such thing, right? So the East LA Tribune read an article about us. These outside agitators, they're troublemakers, outside agitated communists, And then I go, well, fuck, I live in East LA, I go into Garfield, I'm not outside, and troublemaker, we're just protesting. I say, I'm not a communist. I tell people now, but later, 20 years later, yeah, But back then, we still had that hangover of
Yeah, the whole renovating market, yeah.
I grew up with the kid, I was the Cuban Missile Crisis. And it's all like, oh, sure, we're going to bomb us. Yeah, everybody else is getting bomb shelters, and I'm there in Florence area, like, fuck, what about us? Anyway, so all of that radicalized me, the getting harassed and swatted, corporal punishment, and it all came together like, fuck, So the Brown Berets, we were young, angry men and women. Police abuse, right? And then, we met Sal Castro and all these students at the Church of the Epiphany, which is considered, one of the seeds of Chicano movement, right? And there was a CP guy that we didn't know he was CP, Patricio Sanchez, and his wife, Josefa. They were always around supporting us, but they never pushed anything,
Yeah.
And so let me see. So then what happened? Okay, the walkout. Okay, so then the walkouts,
Hold on 1 second.
Yeah, go ahead. Oh,
He was? Because
but maybe she remembers what he was doing.
she does, because she described him as like, I guess he got in trouble because he was supposed to march with the post office union, but he chose to march with berets instead.
Yeah. Yeah. Is it on?
Yep, we're good.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because, I learned about the CP also. That remember in the Sleepy Lagoon case, the CP was involved in that case,
Yeah.
right? And so then you're going into the early 50s. The CP had a strong presence in Ball Heights, Jewish Americans and Chicano, right? And they even endorsed Edward Royball's first run for city council. There's a flyer at the La Plaza de Cultura Arte downtown. I don't know if you should go, but you know what? The whole Chicano Power movement exhibit, they closed it and they keep saying they're going to move it upstairs. But there was a flyer there, and Ed Roybal, who came out of the CSO with Fred Ross, Sal Olinsky, I don't know if you know those names, and he ran for city council in 47. He had CP as endorsed, all the groups,
Endorsers, yeah.
because the CP was strong. And then he won, right? Oh shit, we got allergies. And then in '53, the CSO got involved in the Bloody Christmas case. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then they won. They got the cost prosecutor. And even Roybal was harassed. But later on, from what I've read, the CSO started becoming more moderate, and I would say maybe conservative or anti-communist, because Fred Ross and Saul Olinsky were not communists, and then since the CP was very strong in Ball Heights, East LA, and during that time they got expelled from the AFL-CIO, I think, or AFL. There was all that Red Scare bullshit. So CSO, believe it or not, I read a document that CSO was more developed to counter the CP influence among Chicanos.
It wouldn't be shocking. I mean, the NAACP had that same factor.
Did they really?
Yeah,
They got black.
that was why WB Du Bois left the NAACP and then joined the party.
So,
because there was
the boy was in the party? Okay.
Yeah, because I forget who wrote it, but there was this big internal discussion within the NAACP about the LA chapter being too filled with communists.
Yeah.
And they had to deal with that.
Oh,
So there was this huge vacuum that was left open because the party was repressed in the 50s, and that's how the new communist movement, the new left, really formed, because there was this open ground, it seemed, in the party's wake, as the party declined.
Okay.
And obviously, the new left dealt with COINTELPRO, repression, significantly, assassinations, disappearances.
Yeah.
People were forced into exile, you included. But I remember Joe Horn talking about in that book, Armed Struggle, they were talking about earlier, about, like somebody like Eldridge Cleaver, for example, having some eclecticism in his politics. And that being one of the major issues for the new left sort of collapsing, for lack of a better term. What's your perception?
Well, I don't think so. It was ultra-leftism.
That's what they did?
Yeah. Elridge had some lumpen tendencies, proletarian lumpen tendencies. He actually grew up in Lincoln Heights. Remember, he was busted for rape.
Yeah.
We even had a meeting with him up in Oakland, the Brown Berets. So anyway, let me back up a little bit. No, my analysis of the rise of the new left, the radicalism, was the anti-war movement, the Black liberation movement, and the rise of the new Chicano power movement. Because we rejected the 40s, 50s the GI Forum, LULAC, CSO, that says assimilate, integrate, work within the system, voter registration. So we come along saying, no, we're not white, we're indigenous, we're brown, and we're gonna take direct action, you know. So, and then, you know, the old guard, well, when I say the old guard, the Chicano, you know, and they did good stuff, you know, against
Like the
racism.
LULACs and,
The
yeah.
LULAC, the GI Forum, you know, they wouldn't let Chicanos get buried in the cemetery because they weren't white, you know. But they wanted assimilation
Yes.
and integration. So the Chicano power movement were influenced by the Black Liberation movement, you know, and then the anti-war movement. So we're saying, no, we want Chicano power. In other words, there was so much racism, and that my generation and even before, they were ashamed of being Mexican, of being brown.
Yeah.
People would change their names, dye their hair, blonde and shit, you know, and they tried to change my name to Charlie, but I fought it, man, you know, I'm glad I did, you know. But all my friends had English names. I was at fucking Garfield High School, and people were like surfers. Dyed hair, little wingtail, the same. Fucking, you never even surfed in your life, you know. But, you know, the beat boy, you know, the culture, you know, and another thing, so then we didn't have no positive images. You know, the only thing I remember was Richie Valens, La Bamba. And we thought, oh, what the fuck, who is that? And we kept looking, wait a minute, he fucking looked Mexican to us, you know, Richie Valens? You know, and then, and so then the Black Liberation Movement, you know, I'm black and I'm proud. So we, Brown Berets, started saying, Moreno es bonito, be brown and proud, cultural pride, to counter that fierce racism, which I now call national oppression.
Yes.
You know, of oppressing our culture and our pride. And so then you know, so we did the protest at the sheriff station. We started becoming known as Berets. So that we formalized, we're going to start at the Brown Berets. We had a patch and everything. And then, you know, we go to the Poor People's Campaign. In the beginning, we were kind of cultural nationalists. We thought that the problem was the white man, you know, the honky, the gringo. Then we go to the Poor People's Campaign. MLK invited us before he got killed. He also invited the Crusade for Justice, Reyes Tijerina, the Alliance, the Brown Beret. We get on a bus, man, in Watts. We drove all the way to D.C. But every night we'd stop at a city, hold a rally, pick up more. Phoenix, El Paso, I think, where did we go? Albuquerque, Denver, Missouri. Man, then we had all these dozens of buses coming in D.C. So the reason I point that out, to me and some berets, we realized that this is a multiracial struggle, because we had Navajos there, blacks, of course, Puerto Ricans, whites from Appalachia. They were fucking poorer than us. Some of them had no teeth, you know, like fuck. So white man not the enemy, it's the system, the white system, you know, the corporation. So we started developing a different ideology, and then, you know, we get back to LA, the war in Vietnam, you know. There was one guy from the CP, I forget his name, a young Chicano guy. He would give us posters. We would go to his house, he'd have a poster of Ho Chi Minh. And like, yeah, no, I know, I love it. Right?
I love it.
Yeah, so we're like, what, Ho Chi Minh, you know? And then the Black Panthers came to the coffee house, gave us the red book. So we're there, you know, Mao Zedong says this, Mao Zedong. Then we got Frantz Fanon and, you know, Che Guevara and the Trots Group, Socialist Workers Party, had a bookstore that would go to all this stuff about Che Guevara, you know, and then, so, you know, we started getting a little taste. So then I became, I would say, a revolutionary nationalist, you know, because I started learning about Cuba and then Latin America, and then we said we support Vietnam. It wasn't just about peace out. We said we want Vietnamese to win, and that created a scandal in East LA. The fucking Brown Berets want the Vietnamese to win. Hell yeah! So we became anti-imperialists. You know, not all of us. David Sanchez still stayed. He never made that change.
Really?
He kept saying that don't worry about that over there. Worry about your own backyard. Forget about other. Yeah, backward. You know, and I would say, look, we got to worry about our backyard common issues of police, education, you know, housing, you know, the stoplight. But fucking Vietnam is taking our youth and getting killed over there. So some of the guys I went to school with, they used to call themselves the State Street Boys, uh, which eventually became a gang. But back then there was the little clique, 4 guys. They were real sharp. They were in the football team. And they were great, you know, the center, the quarterback. Anyway, they got into the Marines, the buddy system, you know, where if you go in together, they guarantee you together, you'll be together. So when they came back, I ran into them at the Tepeyac restaurant. I talked to them, and they had shrapnel in their legs and their head, and they didn't want to talk about it. They were like, oh, you know. Well, one of the guys, and his nickname was Rocky. I think his last name was Apodaca. He showed me his Marine album. It was beautiful, thick album, white leather with embossed U.S. Marine, Semper, his name. He opened it up. What do you think was in there? Dead bodies
Yeah.
of the Vietnamese he killed.
Give him that nice letter.
There was this soldier holding the M16 over bodies, and he has a necklace of ears they cut off. Yeah, this is fucking shit. So I looked at it, I couldn't, I was, oh, all right, you know. So we helped him get into UCLA High Potential Program. Later on, he was found in an abandoned gas station, restroom, heroin, died of heroin, right? So that, all that shit radicalized me, got me mad and pissed off, right? So the Vietnam is bad. You know, we studied about the Vietnamese struggle and National Liberation Front, Vietnam, and Ho Chi Minh, and we said we got to support. It's their country, they want. And then we found out they're communists. So we said, okay, if they're fucking communists, that's what they want. Hey, that's fine with us. You know what I mean? Like, that's what they want. Okay, you know, it's their country. You know. So then. We didn't start reading any of the classics till later on, you know. Let me think. Oh yeah, but we back to the last newspaper. He was in the basement of the church. Eleazar had copies of Granma, the newspaper. So we would read that. At first, we oh fuck, he's a communist. Like fuck, because you know he was Cuban.
Yeah.
He was expelled by UFW by Cesar because he was too radical. He founded El Macrero newspaper. I'm telling you shit that people probably don't even know. And Cesar, because Cesar was anti-communist, and so then he came down. I don't know. I guess Father John Luz recruited him to start, and he was actually a great organizer. So we had meetings in the basement with students, with SR, Sal Castro, formed student strike committees. They did the whole survey of the schools. You know, we started popularizing demands, passing out flyers at all the high schools. Started popularizing the demand walkout, you know, and then one day 3, 4 brown berets, like David, he always jumped the gun, you know. He ran over to Garfield with Ralph and Fred, tried to start the walkouts, you know. So that's why he says I started the walk. Okay, you did. You ran to Garfield, nobody was ready. The sheriff came and stopped it, right? So then we had a meeting with Lesar Risco, other people. Okay, look, on this day, I want you to go down there at 10 o'clock in the morning and start the walkouts at Lincoln. Go in there and start yelling. I said, okay, you know, you're 2019. All right, great, you know. Anyway, so the next day in March, me and Richard over here ran into Lincoln High School yelling, walk out. And the plan was that the students already knew at 10 o'clock they were going to get up and walk out, and Vicky Castro was in the principal's office to you know, to keep them occupied. Right? So then thousands of students walked out. You know, it was awesome. You know, and we were rallying in front of Broadway Street, right? And there's photos. The police were taking photos. So I had a friend that worked in the DA's office as a secretary, gave me photos, black and white glossies. They got thousands of them. She gave me 3 or 4. He showed a picture of us in front of Lincoln High School. Because nowadays everybody said I was there, I did it. I go, well, fuck, where are you at in the photo, man? You know, like Rosalio, you
gotta
weren't
be
there. Rosalio tried to do set the credit for the Waka. He wasn't even around. You know, no, you know, he did the Chicano moratorium. I'll give him that credit.
But that's different than the walkouts. That's a different.
Yeah, the walkout was March of '68.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, and then we there for 2 hours. Okay, let's go to Roosevelt now. We go to Roosevelt. They locked up the chains, and we were on the back side on Mott Street side where the gate was. A bunch of students were trying to get out. Oh, how the fuck we're gonna do is a chain? So the students threw a big giant rope, the thick one that you use for gymnastics.
Yeah.
Have you ever done that gymnastics where you sit down and you go bum, bum, bum? You did that?
Once.
Gymnastics?
I tried.
I did gymnastics at Hollenbach Middle. I loved it. And I did cross country at Garfield and track. Anyway, I said, oh man, it's all right, let's fucking try it. We tie it around, and me and Ralph are pulling out like this, and the students are, hundreds of them. Miraculously, the chain popped. And the gate bumps open. How these students walked out. And I'm like, I turn around, there's this guy taking photos. And the DA had the photo. I have a copy of that photo. And I put it in my website, you know. But it was funny, it was a white guy with a white shirt, short sleeve with a tie, right? With a crew cut, you know.
It's obvious.
Yeah, like, fuck, who is this guy? Anyway, so then we run into the school, yelling, walk out. The coach runs after us, running all over the school. It was chaos, you know. Finally, we get out, and then we go back to the Church of the Epiphany, the basement. Okay, what's next? One day, oh, we got to call the student want to walk out of Belmont. Hey, take these flyers, me and Gomez. And I think Gomez was CP. Okay, but, you know, okay, so, check, you're going to love this, watch. So we drive down to Belmont. We pull over where the guy was at the corner. As soon as we pull over, LAPD stopped us. It was a setup. They arrest us. They took us into the old glass house. They put us in a room. They took the handcuffs. We're sitting there, and this older white guy in a suit, white shirt, great, walks in. They start questioning it. And, you know, I'm new. I don't know, hey, you know, who are you guys? Well, you know, who put you up to this? Who did the walkouts? You know, I forget but he started asking. He asked about, the party put you up to it? He brought up the party. He goes, what about the party? The party. And me, I'm stupid. I didn't know, right? So I go, what party? What are you talking about, the party? You know, fucking stupid, naive, right? But Gomez, he knew, he just kind of like,
You're kept real quiet.
yeah, you're like, yeah, I'm fucking naive as hell, you know, like, hey, we're brown berets, we have a right to walk out, man, you know, in bad schools, you know, I'm all this shit, right? But he kept asking about, no, we're in the brown berets, you know, no party, what are you talking about, you know? So finally, he just walked out, and they let us go. They let us go. I guess he was maybe the red squad or something, you know. And then, so we go back, you know, and then it went on for a week or two, the walkouts. You know, later on we get indicted. Okay, so Pat Sanchez, he would always come around to the Brown Beret meetings. And from what I learned later on, we started saying, you know, Chicano power, we want our own nation, you know, we want to separate from the U.S. Because we went to Denver in March of '69, where it was 1,500 at the National Chicano Youth Liberation Conference that the Crusade organized. And then that's when the Plan Espiritual de Aztlán was formulated. That came out, we're a brown nation, we're a nation, we have the right to self-determination. And that also radicalized us to say we're not just a civil rights Chicano power movement. You know, we're a power for self-determining our nation. But prior to that, Rey Lopez Tijerina had came to La Paraña. We had Toki Camargo there, Elvis Cleaver, we had Corky. Tijerina would come and speak at the Paraña. It was a fucking great hub. And when Tijerina came, remember in June 7th of 67, he led an armed raid in Tierra Maria.
Yes.
Do you know about that? You got to read about that.
Yes, I don't think
Tierra Amarilla, right? So when he came to us, he said, it's a struggle for the land. I go, what? What are you talking? We're talking about police, police, Vietnam, and all of a sudden, no, en la tierra y libertad, and we're like, whoa, this is a struggle for the land here. It's not just civil rights. So our political consciousness started evolving, radicalizing, because he taught us about the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. We learned and read it. The Mexican-American War, how they invaded Mexico all the way to Mexico City, then took half of Mexico, and the treaty guaranteed language, citizenship, cultural, and land right, which is
Was never
violated.
respected.
Yeah, it was bullshit, right? So, and then Tijerina, went to Spain to study the land grants. He was a fucking expert. And we hung out with him. I don't know if it was after the Portillo's campaign, but we were in Albuquerque with him, and he allowed us into the meetings of the Alianza. They had a big room, but it had cork all around. And then we went up north, going to village. He was meeting with I don't know if you call them farmers, campesinos. They were sheep herders, farmers, and they were part of the Alianza. And then he had a meeting with all of them. And we were just sitting there, young Chicano, just gobbling it up, right? And then he comes up to us, hey, you want to meet the sheriff? Oh, fuck, the sheriff? Hell no, we don't meet the sheriff. No, man, this is our own shit. We have our own government. This is our own Alianza Federal. They had a government. They had the mayordomo, the council, and then their own shit. Oh, like self-government.
Yeah.
So that, again, radicalizes that we need to have our own government, our own land, right? So then in the Brown Beret 13-point program, part of it was self-determination for Chicanos, economic and political power. And we started reading other people, and we saw that Emma Tenayuk, other people, the CP said equality, right? And we said, we don't just want equality, we want self-determination. But the CP was afraid that we were becoming separatists. Because remember in World War II, there was a right-wing separatist movement that the Nazis set up. Somebody set up to try to sabotage the U.S. during World War II by the Nazis, So I forget what the name of that movement was, And so I think there was concern by the CP that, but I think once they realized that we're becoming anti-imperialist, they stopped worrying about it. But when we got busted, one of the guys that got busted for conspiracy to disrupt the school was Pat Sanchez. And I believe he was in the CP. But in talking to some folks that were later close to the CP, I was told that Pat Sanchez's wife, Josefa Sanchez, in the early 60s wanted to run for assembly because the CP used to run candidates.
Oh, yeah.
And they said, no, a woman will not make it, a Chicana woman. Yeah, so there was a big struggle. So they left the CP, right? And I don't know, this is all hearsay. They sabotaged the CP doing stuff, but they were still, communists, right? Because there was one woman that joined the CP, a young woman, Margie, and she was either still CP or former CP. You should look up the Sanchez's,
Okay.
And so anyway, after we're in the Poor People's Campaign, and Corky tells us, hey, there's warrants out for your arrest. Why? What happened? Well, the Waka, you've been indicted, grand jury indictment. So it was 13 of us, and one of them was Pat Sanchez. He passed already. And then mostly 4 or 5 Brown Berets, Sal Castro, the guy Gomez that died, he died early. The one was with me, And, okay, I'm kind of losing my trend. Okay, so then that's 68, 69. We go to the Chicano Youth Conference. And then one day we're having a Brown Beret meeting. We're half fucking grown. We had chapters all over the South. We had meetings with 45, 50 people in a small office. And one day, David Sanchez walks in. We're meeting. we're going to have a Chicano moratorium. And everybody go, what is that? Well, we're going to oppose the war. And it's a Chicano moratorium. Now, what the fuck's a moratorium? But they're all popular. Moratorium. But we said, we're going to have a Chicano moratorium. All right, fuck yeah, you're right. It makes sense. To me it makes sense because, the State Street Boys.
Yeah.
We even had one brown beret friend who got drafted. We're trying to do draft counseling. There was anti-draft stuff. We would go downtown to City Hall for the peace rallies, right? And I remember one time I was out there, I was already radicalized. And then I gave a speech. I was like, I don't know, it was fiery. I was fiery speech. I don't know what the fuck I said, but people walk up to me, we want peace. No, we want the Vietnamese to win. And they were like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? And then the fucking armed services had a magazine called Stars and Stripes.
Mm-hmm.
And they would give it to the soldiers in Vietnam, and they would read it. And they had an article about the brown berets, that we were communists. So when these guys were coming back, right, special for whatever, and they ran into us. I ran into a restaurant to a guy downtown, and he saw us wearing the beret, and he was all decked out in his uniform. And he goes, I know about you guys. You guys are communists. You guys are communists. We tried talking to him. Oh, no, no, you guys are communists, man. You want to kick your fucking ass, So I saw that he was full uniform, right? So like me and the other guy, well, go for it, man. We're not going to go do your thing, man. We're ready to do it. Come on, let's go. Well, I got my uniform on. I respect my uniform. I don't want to mess it up. So then I go, oh, okay, well, come on. I started getting all brave, right? So I'm going to come back. Meet me here in an hour. I'm going to go change, So he takes off, and his friend was like trying to, he takes off, and I tell him, get the fuck out of here. He got a fucking kid. He was all buffed out. He's a Chicano guy. I said, let's get the fuck out of here. We don't want to fight no Air Force, whatever. He had all these fucking medals.
Let me just change the battery one more time.
Milwaukee, Wisconsin, for the March on the RNC.
Uh-huh.
And I ran into her, of course, look, I got COVID, I don't forget her name. Mm-hmm. But in Voces de la Frontera, mm-hmm. The director there, I know she's CP, we know she's CP. So, we invited her to, be part of the March on the RNC. She had a big group out there, and, I had conversations with her, and she goes, yeah, Carlos, we got to defeat Trump. I go, yeah, I agree with you, Unfortunately, our left group was saying if we say stop Trump, the young left people are going to say...
For Kamala, yeah.
Yeah, no, are going to say, then indirectly you're saying support Kamala. And the young, especially after the encampments,
At that time it was just hard, yeah.
What, Biden and Kamala supporting Israel,
Yeah.
Like, the first time he ran, we did say defeat Trump. But we didn't want to say that. When I say, I'm talking about Freedom Road, because our political line. But I told her, I support you. I agree with you. He's going to be a bad. So what question did you want to ask before?
It talked about.
Oh, wait a minute. Let me just say. So the rise of the Chicano power movement, we became radicalized. Started studying Vietnam, China. So, and the same thing with the Black Liberation Movement, and then we rejected the CPUSA, so based on their position on peaceful coexistence, transition to socialism, and being all pro-Russia. We made the big mistake of saying that Russia was,
Social imperialist?
Social imperialist,
Yeah.
right. That was a big fuck up, And I tell people, right, we were pro-China, and China's with us, because China was still pushing third world liberation and everything.
But China and the Soviet Union had their big split. They had this
Soviet
split.
Right.
That caused lines across the entire world. Everyone had to pick a side in a way.
Yeah, you're right. It was a big split, so we were with China, and, it was, and then... Yeah, anyways, but we started identifying with China, and we started reading Marxism-Leninism. I was in El Paso underground, right? And the big FATA strike happened. and all the groups started sending cadre. The RU, it was RU back then, ATM, Sojourner Truth Organization. I think they were Trotsky. The CP was already there. They were in the union, Amalgamated Clothing Textile Workers Union, because I could tell they were kind of like, it was a wildcat strike.
Yeah.
And so then, I was 29, handed me a book, Foundations of Leninism by Stalin. I go, and I read it, like, what the fuck? This is awesome, man. And like, give me more. So they study groups, then we joined. I joined August 29 underground. We had a district with El Paso and Albuquerque, and they brought in folks. They got jobs in the copper refinery, Phelps Dodge. They had folks up in New Mexico in the mine and mill. Or not mine and mill, the copper mine. And they had the proletariat strategy. Go to the proletariat, man. Copper industry, garment industry in El Paso was big. The Twin Planks, right? But if you read, then they published a book, Fan the Flame.
Yep.
You guys have seen that one, man?
That's one of the ones I've read, yeah.
Yeah. And when we read it, they came and did a forum in El Paso, and I was like, wow, yeah, okay, yeah, I remember. I was, the planet, we're a nation, we have a right to self-determination. It all makes sense. It was more scientifically formalized for me, Yeah, so then, so that whole era, so then remember a lot of the blacks joined different black revolutionary group, Workers Congress, and some of them joined the RU, became RCP, right? And then there was a whole, I remember Harry Haywood.
Yep.
No, wait a minute, Harry Haywood. Make sure I get the right name. Black Bolshevik,
Yeah,
right?
that's Harry Haywood.
Okay, check this out. In 77, in May 77, I got rearrested because I came here to LA to visit my wife's family. We figured maybe they forgot about it, but we're at a family reunion. We got raided, got arrested. Oh, fuck, man, not again. This is conspiracy to commit arson at a Ronald Reagan conference at the Biltmore Hotel, right? Which I eventually was found not guilty, right? But we had a whole campaign, Free Carlos Montes, for 2 years. So one time I was invited to talk about Chicano self-determination, and a black was gonna talk about the black nation. And all right, I'll fucking go. So I go to Watts, and I don't know who this old guy was, Yeah, so we're there talking, and so I talk about Chicano power, and he talks about, he more emphasized multiracial unity. I thought he was gonna talk about the black nation. I didn't know who the hell he was, Harry Haywood. And he was with CPML. He had already left the CP.
Yeah, at that point, definitely, yeah.
Yeah, at CPML, there was a half a dozen new left groups. October League became CPML. Communist Workers Viewpoint became Communist Workers Party. Now, they were fucking ultra left. I thought we were ultra left. They were a war. They were like Judy Chu, Jose Calderon, Ken Wong was in it. Yeah, he just died. Did you know that? Ken Wong, the director of UCLA Labor Center, you know him, right? And then who was the other groups back then? There was at least a half a dozen new left groups, right? And they all of a sudden became parties. Like, fuck, I always say, how can you be a party? You got to have thousands of members, But anyway, I met Harry Haywood. I wish I had a photo, man.
I did a short documentary on him a couple years ago, and I was trying to find footage of him, and there just none exists. There's no footage of him. There's no audio of him, and he's somebody that lived till the 80s. You would think that somebody at some point put a camera on his face and recorded him, and no one did. It seemed. I talked to his daughter briefly, even.
You did?
Yeah, and I asked her if she had any.
Is she in LA or where?
No, she's not LA. I forget where she's at. She's a professor, more of an anarchist, but still progressive, still in the fight. And I asked her if she had any footage of her father, and she was like, no, if you find any, send it to me. And so I spent a year trying to find anything.
You may want to try contacting the old CPML people. So most of these groups fell apart.
Yeah.
When let me see, why, a couple of, let's see, when there was the bad, when Vietnam was free, And then I think Cambodia, the submarine was going into Vietnam raiding, and so then Vietnam invaded Cambodia. So then China attacked Vietnam from the north.
Yeah.
So there was this whole thing arguing like who you support, like Vietnam, China, like fuck man, you know. And then what else happened? There was something else happened. Tiananmen, I guess, Tiananmen Square, you know, some of the left group, oh, yeah, but no, fuck it, they say, our position is that China's safe social, the Gang of Four bullshit.
Oh yeah, that was
Yeah,
a
I
big deal,
remember,
yep.
yeah, that was in the late 70s when
78, 79, something like that.
yeah, the Gang of Four people split, you know.
Yeah.
The RCP came with the Gang of Four, there's fucking capitalism in China. Fuck you, crazy, man. Fuck the Gang of Four, you know. Thanks Xiaoping, you know, built socialism, you know. You know, we believe that China is a socialist country. The CP believe it?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah, we have fraternal relations with the CPC over there as well, obviously.
Yeah. Do you know Rosanna?
But pardon me?
Do you know Rosanna?
Cambron?
Do I know who?
Rosanna Cambron.
Gamboa? No, I don't.
Cambron.
Rosanna Cambron.
No, I don't know.
She's co-chairman of the party right now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
I
she's
love to meet,
she moved to China a couple months ago.
I love to meet her. We had somebody go. Maybe it was the same group.
Maybe.
Sydney Loving just went. She's
Oh, okay.
one of our
It
African American.
was like a world forum on socialism in Beijing.
I think we were there.
Yeah, probably.
Could be. I think we were there. Sydney Loving, she's
I know that,
African American, and right now she's touring, giving a talk on China. She was up in Oakland and other.
Oh, cool.
She'll be when she comes to LA. I'll invite you all.
Perfect.
Or
We'll appreciate
we could do a joint thing maybe. But yeah. So the new left fell apart, right? But many of the new left people got into labor organizing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Got into electoral politics, or got into teaching or positions of government. You know, like look at Judy Chu. You know who Judy Chu is?
Oh, yeah.
He doesn't know, right?
Well, I keep thinking you're saying Judy Chan, who's like this.
Chu.
Who's that?
She was in Communist Workers Party,
Yeah, she was.
including Ken Wong. And what happened, I don't know if we have time, their whole strategy, they reevaluated. Instead of because they were so ultra-left, they kind of became rightists. They say, we're going to form the new American movement.
Yeah.
And we're going to infiltrate the major institutions of the government. And so Ken Wong went to UCLA, became director of UCLA Labor Center. Judy Chu ran for city council, Monterey Park. And we were living there, and she fought the English only stuff. Then she's a congressperson now.
Yeah.
She's in the Progressive Caucus.
Yeah.
And
So I
she's-
was thinking of the right person.
Huh?
I was thinking of the right person then, a congresswoman.
Judy
Yeah,
Chu.
yeah.
Yeah, she's a congresswoman now. Judy Chu, CHU.
Yeah.
Former new communist movement radical. Yeah.
They let her in?
It happens sometimes.
Hey, no. Look, fucking Karen Bass was in the line of march. Look, I'm telling you, like me, I'm still in the communist. I'm Freedom Road. I found Freedom Road in the 90s. You know, I was looking for a group to join because everything had fell apart.
Yeah, sure.
And Freedom Road was still functioning, small. I said, hey, I'm going to join you guys. Because they were Marxist-Leninists, but they also believed in the Chicano nation, right? And I saw that they were studying and they were organizing workers. Oh, these are for real, and let's just talk. So I joined them, and little by little, you know, we regrew. We had some issues here and there, but now we're like fucking,
You guys are doing great.
yeah, we're doing, like fuck. We stuck it out, right?
Well, because there's that massive FBI like wave of raids against you guys.
Yeah, 2011.
Yeah.
I got raided. I
Yeah.
got raided. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there was a lot of concern. I remember, reading that.
You remember about that?
Yeah, it was a big deal.
Yeah, we got raided.
Um,
Yeah.
you speak about, Chicano nationalism, self-determination, and how that became sort of the focal point of the Chicano movement in the late 60s and 70s.
Yes.
They moved away from this assimilationist,
Yes.
civil rights sort of
Right,
centric
right.
focus. From the outside looking in, and obviously somebody younger, it seems that it reverted back to that at some point, whether it's the late 70s, 80s, that revert back to this civil rights, assimilationist centric focus. And now with the Trump raids and military takeover, it seems like the Chicano movement has resurged itself,
Yes,
and it's
yes.
calling for more radical politics.
Yes.
So do you see like Do you see it similar? Do you see that there was this sort of drop off in sort of a revolutionary politics within the Chicano movement, and now there's this resurgence of revolutionary nationalism within the Chicano movement?
Yes, because if you study the '80s, all the community groups disbanded. No new left groups are disbanded. So we had a rise of what I call cultural nationalism because of the Reagan years, pushing anti-labor, anti-social programs, right? So there was a vacuum of revolutionary politics. So there was a rise within the Chicano movement of cultural nationalism, indigenismo, we're Aztec, let's ceremony, let's dance, and so I was still Marxist-Leninist, right? And then I found that group, like I said in the '90s, oh, finally I found a group, right? But there was a whole cultural nationalism that grew and that it's still around. But then you're right. Then the mega march of 2006 and now the anti-Trump movement. So there's a whole new generation of young activists that are anti-Trump and that are open to socialism. I attended the SDS conference this weekend. 300 young people from all over the U.S., black, Chicano, Asian, white, Palestine, fight Trump, LGBTQ rights, pro-immigrant rights, student rights, free speech, right? And Chicanos from Texas as well as Michigan, Florida, like, fuck, where you guys come from, right? And well, the SDS is definitely open to radicalism, right? But we had walkouts in like February, March of this year, all the high school students. We were out there with them, and they definitely have an anti-Trump, pro-Palestine mentality. I don't know if among the masses they're open to socialism, but they're definitely open to radical ideas. They're rejecting Trump as a racist reactionary agenda, So there's a rise. We had. Were you at the Southwest Summit?
Yes, I was.
I invited you guys. Right? Yeah. I believe in working with folks. Some of and we have the new CSO. We relaunched it in the 2000 back to grassroots organizing, open to anti-imperialism. And we FRSO members are in CSO, right? But I ran into one lady that she was in the old CSO the old days. She said something about leftist, because there was this guy Lou Negrete who was the chair of the Chicano studies at Cal State LA, and he purged all the radical like Eric Corona and them, and she dated him. And I remember when we started doing things, she mentioned something about all them leftists, oh fuck, that's the old bullshit from the 40s, 50s of being against communism, Yeah, no, but I run into, look up that Chicano leader. I run into him. One time I went to Arizona, and we have some members over there, and I could tell that you have members over there, when I talk and stuff. Yeah, they're very political, very sharp. I brought up the copper mine, Morenzi, and they right away they knew about it. The movie Salt of the Earth. Yeah. But then, but find out who that Chicano guy. Like I said, look, I'm getting old. I had COVID twice, so name-wise.
It happens, yeah.
Oh, I'll tell you even a better one. A good friend of mine who was in the walkouts at Garfield, she was a teenager, right? And she was abused, beat up, and she speaks in all the walkout movies and stuff. Mita Cuaron. Her dad was in the CP. His last name is Cuaron. I forget his first name. Her mom is Jewish American. They were both CP. So she's what we call a red diaper baby.
Yep.
Right,
There's a whole age of that, yeah.
Yeah, but a lot of, like my daughter, but a lot of the younger generation didn't join the party. You know what I mean? They started going to school, nurses, she's a nurse, the other stuff, right? I guess there was a membership gap that they suffered in the 70s, 80s. Yeah. But yeah. So anyway, so then I come back to LA. You're right. So then now there's a new. We had the summit, and now our immigrant rights work has grown like double the cities. We have legalization for all chapters, and we're thinking. I'm pushing for another conference maybe in 2027. Because this year in November, we're having the National Alliance Against Racist Political Repression. which the CP was instrumental in starting.
Yeah.
Angela Davis. But, we're one of the core organizations with, Frank Chapman.
Oh,
You know
yeah.
Frank Chapman?
Oh, yes.
He joined FRSO.
Yeah, he did.
Remember when they had the split with committees of
Yeah,
correspondence?
he always talks about it, yeah.
Yeah, I know, Angela Davis. He had a whole bunch of people leave,
Yeah.
And it seems like a lot of LA people left too. A lot
Yeah,
of California people left when
Yeah.
that happened too.
Well, it wasn't our district like always a little bit?
Well, yeah, I mean, the way I understand the
Uh-huh.
party history locally is that we were always kind of deemed ultra left.
Oh, really? The LA people?
Dorothy Healy and all those people.
What,
Yeah.
the who?
Dorothy Healy.
Oh, Dorothy Healy. Well, Dorothy Healy, okay, you know what? When we used to be Brown Berets, the CP had a thing downtown called Committee for Defense of the Foreign Born.
Mm-hmm.
Dorothy Healy and Rose Sherman.
Yes.
Little old lady, we would go down and meet with, they had an office in some building, and they would bail us out. And then we would be there, Committee of Foreign Born, then they had photographed newspapers, indicted for I don't know, in conspiracy to overthrow the government.
Yep.
And I go, hey, you're a little late today. So we were like, we respect you, man. You want to overthrow the government, we're down with you,
Yeah, like in LA, we had the Che Lumumba Club, which allowed
Oh, yeah.
dual members with the party and the Black Panther Party. And that
Yeah.
was an exception that the party
Wow.
made for LA. No other place really had that, from my understanding. It's because LA kind of pushed for it. When Jonathan Jackson
Yeah.
did his assault on the county
Yeah.
courthouse
Yeah.
up north.
And Angela was a member of the party.
Angela Davis was a member of the party at that time, and Charlene Mitchell, and I think Franklin Alexander.
I met him. He
Yeah.
in L.A. He's
Yes.
in L.A. He's still a party member? No.
Oh, no, I think he must have passed away by now. I
Oh,
presume. Yeah.
kidding. No, I saw him a couple of years ago.
Oh, really? He's still around?
Look,
I think so.
look him up.
Those work next, yeah.
Okay.
But
I did a talk one time at a DSA from like 5 years ago with Jackie Goldberg, me, and I think it was him.
really?
Yeah, they wanted to know about
Because
that.
he's one of those figures that is so central to our party history in LA, and then kind of just disappears from the record for us in a weird way. Franklin Alexander. I think he was the uncle to Charlene Mitchell. I forget how they were related, but I think they were related. But a lot of them were supportive of Jonathan Jackson and saw it as sort of analogous to like a slave uprising. That
Oh, okay.
it wasn't adventurous. It's more analogous to that.
Yeah.
And Henry Winston and the New York group were like, no, it's adventurous, and there was
Oh,
a
really?
big debate in the party at the
Ooh,
time.
Wow.
But then Angela Davis went on trial, so that changed the whole.
Everybody
thing.
had to unite to support
Yeah,
Angela.
exactly.
Yeah. She spoke at the refounding of the conference 5 years ago.
Mhm.
Yeah. But she's still with that committee correspondent. Some of the folks that were there left and joined us.
I don't know if she's with anymore.
Probably not.
Because
it
she
didn't
gave
go.
at our, was it the
Taylor is one. Look it up. You put it in Carson Taylor, and the other guy, I think it's Levitt. Levitt, Levvitt. So they're still around. They may be old. You should contact them and ask them, do you have anything on
Any
your
archived,
head?
anything
On
like
your
that,
head,
yeah.
what, yeah.
Just the last question I have is, as someone that we talked about, and you've sort of talked about it here, is the amount of repression and setbacks, having to go underground, the Soviet bloc falling in the 90s, all these sort of splits and sort of contradictions and conflicts between groups. But to me, whenever I've seen you, you've always come across as the most optimistic, like
Yeah.
happy organizer I've seen. And
Yeah.
how have you kept revolutionary optimism through all of these periods of struggle that have been really significant and repressive? As somebody that is new to the struggle and now really in a state of repression now, and probably the first time in my organizing life, we have, Comrade Alejandro from Central CSO, him being charged, and obviously those charges were later dropped, but, it's getting home in a way that it really hasn't before for an organizer. I bet a lot of organizers in today's age that are young and new to it, how do you keep that optimism, that revolutionary optimism?
Yeah. Well, I think two things. First of all, I'm a Marxist-Leninist, So it helps me as a guide and analysis what's going on, right? You know, I'm not confused. I see that Marxist Leninist, it shows me what's going on. You know, it's the rise of the monopoly capitalism, U.S. imperialism is the enemy of the people of the world, and we got to defeat it. And, you know, we have a strategy of uniting in the United States, the Black Liberation Movement, Chicano Liberation Movement, all working people, right? And we got to organize in the community, in the working class, you know, so you know, I believe in it, and so that keeps me focused. The other part about being happy and positive, I think that's just my upbringing from my mom and my family, right? You know, because people have told me that, you know, that I am so positive. But the other thing that I get motivated is when new people join the struggle, young people, moms, when I see them get active and we win things, you know, like the walkouts of February, March of this year were downtown, thousands of young people saying, you know, yeah, and I was out there with them like, yeah, it feels fucking good, you know. And usually I don't take over freeways. I'm against that. It's too dangerous, right? But there was so thousands of them, and they were already on the freeway, and there's one big family said, come on, Carlos, let's go. And like, no, no, no. And I have a small car, a convertible. Go, come on, put the top down. We're having the flag. So I go, all right, but we'll drive back to Bohai. Yeah. So finally, I got my fucking car in the freeway, the 101 going southeast, right, with all the flags and all the kids in the mom, you know. But we're going back to Bohai. Everybody, let's go, everybody, come on. They're all marching behind us. We're gonna get off on First Street, go to Mariachi Plaza, have a rally. So we get there, we get the free, we get out, come on, get it. No, they fucking kept going. Like, no, come on. They kept going, oh, fuck, man. You know, we go, you know, I believe in keeping them safe. You know, but by then the CHP had closed everything, so they blocked them on 4th Street, you know. I believe in mass militant marches, but, you know, you use your word, I don't want adventurism or get people, you know, arrested or shot or beaten up, right? But yeah, so when I see young people and I see protests, it just pumps me up, you know. And I was at the SDS convention this weekend, man. Fucking 300 young radical students, organized, articulate, like, fuck, this is awesome, you know, yeah, and, you know, and seeing that, you know, Vietnam won against U.S. imperialism, you know, and I've been to Caracas, Venezuela, a couple of years ago for the 10-year anniversary of the passing of Hugo Chavez, first black Latino president, right? And I saw the people there organized, you know. I met Evo Morales, like, fuck, man, you know. He was in the cafeteria, right? I was eating, and I see him walk in. I jumped right in, was like, get a photo. And I was already, then all of a sudden, all the Central Americans jumped up. Yeah, wait a minute, I'll meet that. You know, and then, you know, and I was at that indoor rally at a big old giant theater. And I'm sitting there, you know, and all of a sudden, Nicolas Maduro walks in, and with a couple of bodies, not a whole bunch, and then he sits like 5 rows down, and he turns around, he's always going like this, you know, and I think I got a picture of him, you know what I mean, like, damn, you know, little old Chicano from Juarez, sitting there with, you know, and then later on, they had another one where the whole stage was full of, they had Daniel Ortega, Evo Morales, you know, and the newer president of Bolivia, and I can't remember all the names, but then there was Raul Castro up there. And they all gave speeches, right, long speeches, but they have music, rally, you know, and then Raul gets up there, he stands up and he goes, he's all this paper, I guess his speech, he goes, no voy a, ya sé que hay mucho tiempo, no voy a leer todo este discurso, nomás quiero decirles que yo tengo 93 años y sigo siendo revolucionario. And the whole fucking thing got up, you know, all the young Latino, black, young folks and family, women, working class women, like, you know, like, fuck. So then I'm like right there, like watching the, you know, the socialist revolution of Venezuela. I know some people think it's not socialist, but I can see that, you know, they love the government. You know, I'm sitting among working class moms, youth, and I tell them I'm a Chicano, and when I go to Cuba, they know what a Chicano is, so that what keeps me pumped up, you know what I mean? I've seen, I've been to Colombia before the peace treaty. I've been to Cuba 4 times. In 1996, I met Asada Shakur.
Really?
Yeah, I was there with Global Exchanges, organized by, Medea Benjamin and Al Code Pink. She had this Global Exchanges. She would do trips every year. And my ex-wife Olivia was with me in a big group. And we were somewhere, some former plantation, and I saw her. I thought she was a black Cuban, And I started talking Spanish to her. Oh, ¿qué tal? ¿Cómo están? And then I could tell she spoke English, Spanish. And I go, oh, who are you? Are you from Cuba? No, she wasn't Cuban. Well, what are you doing here? You part of the, no. And I asked her name. And she said Asada. And then I go, and I kind of like, what? And I, what? What'd you say? And then she said, what? That's the way, hey, Asada. Started taking all these photos and shit. And Medea said, yeah, it's Asada, So I got a witness, because like when I tell people, that I met Harry Haywood and Asada, and I spoke at Bobby Seale's 80th birthday. I was a keynote speaker. People, oh, come on, Carlos. Come on. The thing about the photos, though, it was the old rolls.
Yeah.
We took a bunch of rolls, and we put them in our hotel room, and we got ready to leave. They were stolen. All the rolls were stolen. And then Medea always told us there's somebody from the FBI in the group. We always get infiltrated. So I suspect, what the fuck, man? How did they get in? Who got them?
They're so scared of brown berets and black revolutionaries talking, huh? Like
yeah.
Steal the photos.
Yeah. That was in 96. So did I already join there first? So I forget when I joined. I think I joined in the mid to late 90s. But I'm so pissed out, like no photos,
Yeah.
Like I don't really go, I used to not go around and telling people no, because people are going to say, come on, man, But I've been around. I was in the Poor People's Campaign, with Jesse Jackson, Reverend Abernathy, Jose Williams and them, And, I've always done speaking gigs. Colleges invite us. They want me to talk about the brown berets. So then sometimes I'll have Kathleen Cleaver and Erica Huggins. And by the way, one of the strong things I always advocate for black and brown unity, because Bunchy Carter and John Huggins came to East LA to the Paraña Coffee House to talk about working together, the Black Panthers and the Brown Berets, black and brown unity. And, I met them, they came, and people don't know who they were or how they became radical. They were former gang members, Slauson, I remember they were very solid, strong. I could feel the strength. They didn't talk a lot, like Elvis Cleaver,
He's a talker, yeah.
And then I said, yeah, we work together, gotta work. There were some brown berets that were against it. I had to educate them. And then we would go to Black Panther Party offices in South LA for meetings, and there would be some blacks that were anti-Mexican.
Yeah.
So it was a struggle, But yeah. Anyway, did I answer your last question?
You did answer it. I mean, do you have any questions, Danny? I mean, I feel like I got all the things I wanted.
Not necessarily. I just wanted to
All right.
your point about the Chicano Revolution. We kind of got it.
The Chicano Revolution.
One thing, you mentioned the Brown Berets doing like car patrols.
Mean what?
Doing like car patrols early on and doing like...
Carpools?
No, car patrols. Like patrolling your neighborhood, doing like handing out flyers and stuff like that. Doing like outreach.
Yeah.
Was that picked up from the community alert patrols that were happening in the black community in LA, like in Watts?
Yeah. We tried doing that, but they had money, they had cars and stuff. We didn't, No, but we would go meet with the gangs to recruit them to move to the Brown Berets. So our talking was anti-police stuff, the car clubs. We wouldn't go door to door. I think we would go to community meetings and speak up.
Okay.
Community events. And we would speak up and pass out flyers. We had our newspaper, like House of Newspaper. and we would start distributing it. And, you know, when I would do the layout, it would be more revolutionary nationalism. When David did it, it was more cultural stuff. It was back and forth, you know. Yeah, to this day, he's still like that. He's anti-communist, you know, David Sanchez. But
So when the Brown Berets formed, it wasn't explicitly a communist
no,
organization.
no, of course not. No. The Brown Berets were Chicano power. It was cultural nationalism. Then there was a revolutionary nationalist tendency within it. And then, you know, we proliferated all over the Southwest, but in 72 it disbanded, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then some of them, you know, like Cruz and other ones joined the labor movement, or the Partido Raza Unida. They had labor committees, and those labor committees were more of the Marxist Chicanos or Marxist Leninists. And then they ended up forming August 29 movement, Marxist Leninist. Yeah, it was a labor committee of the Partido in LA, Oakland. There were some independent collectives in New Mexico. I don't know about Texas. They didn't have anybody, but they sent people to the FARA strike. They sent Chicano. They even sent some to work in the garment industry. And then one guy to work at the copper refinery.
Mm-hmm.
So they, you know, that's what I respected them. They're like for real. They're not just talking, you know, go to the key industries, you know. Yeah. So anyway, yeah.
Is there sort of like any statement you want to make to people that be watching this that are struggling against ICE right now, that are fighting back against fascism, whether they're in LA, Chicago, New York, other cities? Is there any message you want to give to people right now?
Yeah, in the long run, we will win. You know, the people are united. You know, we just got to be organized. Organized. I always tell people, organize your building, organize your block, your neighborhood, your workplace, and be part of a broader coalition. You know, in Ball Heights, we have the Ball Heights East LA Rapid Response Network, where if we see ICE, we'll roll out and protest. And then come out to the big giant marches, you know, the No Kings marches this Saturday, you know. But focus on organizing your community and uniting, and join a revolutionary group, join an organization, you know. And you know, get ready for the revolution. Yeah.
I do want to ask.
All right, I'm getting tired. What?
For sure. I want to ask you one final thing, but it's real quick. I do notice that there are still some Brown Beret chapters that have reformed and exist now again, and they're all like pretty fractured up. Do you see a future for them?
Yeah. Over the years, you have everybody wants to be a Brown Beret because they see the photos, the history, the movie, and some people just dress up, you know, and do security. But so over the years, I never said, okay, you know, I acknowledge you, I support you. But a couple of years ago, I saw a new formation of Brown Berets chapters. They call themselves La Mesa,
Yes.
Brown Berets. They were at the summit. They're more serious. They have meetings. They have elections, and I support them and acknowledge them because you know they come out to the Chicano moratorium every year. They came out to the summit. I was at a conference in Sacramento 3-4 years ago, and they had me speak. Then they had an election of an elder. I was elected as an elder. They actually introduced me, talked about what, then had elections, which I respect instead of, you know. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, and so I acknowledge them. There's other ones in independence, autonomous here and there. I get calls all the time in Chicago, and Texas, there's a bunch of them. They call them Texas Autonomous Brown Beret.
I was almost nervous to ask you the question because I'm sure that that's like the one thing you get asked a lot is just about the berets. But it's
all the time.
Okay, so it remains like a very big inspiration to people. I mean,
no, yeah, a lot of young people, and I tell them, don't romanticize it. You know, you want to get dressed up, and all you don't want to do is security. Well, you got to organize, man. But they get kind of into security thing. We did the security. I did bodyguard for Figuerina.
I think because it makes them feel like they're doing what they're supposed to, but like they have to do more. They should be like, well.
Yes, they should do more. Yeah, and some of them are doing now the self-help stuff, or what they call it. The anarchists have a different name for it. You know, they have a big festival at a park, and they have food and diapers and give
like
away mutual aid.
Yeah.
So they're into the mutual aid thing, you know. Which I go, this is good, you know, but look, you got to take an issue, organize them. You know what I mean? And so we encourage them to do that. That's why we invited them to the summit. We have one of their leaders speak at the summit. You know, and then So I know the thing is, they took a picture of me at a rally, and we're going like this, you know, with the berets all suited up, and they put that image all around it. The young people even did a new T-shirt for the last moratorium. They used that image. I voted against the CSO. I won't know what. Yeah, I won't know, man. But I got outvoted. You know, like fuck, man. You know.
You got voted on your own image.
Yeah. So I voted against it because it's all over. It's in the movie, The Last Angry Brown Hat. I put it in my website. Fuck it, you know. Yeah. All right. Well, listen, and let's stay in touch.